Hello, marvelous people. My brother has the nerve to be getting happily married. Can you believe it? Anyway, given that he is so insistent on getting married, I suppose I have no other choice but to make him a loving gift for his wedding, and therefore I have decided I will be making a little coffee table today. So first I needed the actual resources to build the table. My brother and his fiance decided on the various materials they liked best, which was solid cherry for the main body, purple heart and paddock for some of the flowing inlays that you'll see later in the video, and sapele, however it's pronounced, for part of the flower inlays, which will come later. Now, as you can see here, I'm applying glue to the planks, and then I will be squishing them all together to make the main body of the table. While I'm doing that in the background, allow me to regale you with a tale from our childhood. A long time ago, my brother and I were children. Shocking, I know. But we also had bunnies, adorable bunnies of joy. And across the street during the winter, there would be a big snow pile that the snowplows would, pile up. And so we would go over there and we would dig little tunnels, and it was a great time. We would try and kind of freeze them over once they were dug out using like water to make an ice barrier and all that. Anyway, so we loved to take the bunnies over to the snow tunnels, and then my brother had a brilliant idea. Being the businessman that he is, he thought, what if we charge people money for the privilege to see the bunnies? And charge them more money for the privilege to cuddle with the bunnies. It was a brilliant idea that made us many cents back in the day. As you can see, my brother has always been a businessman. Alright, now we've got only one more plank left to put together, and the table's main body will be good to go, which means I can finally move on, or not finally, it didn't take that long, but it'll be done, and then I can move on to doing the inlay. So the next objective is to cut the table in half in order to insert an actual inlay. In order to do that, I first took some plastic and I used a jigsaw to cut it into the shape that I want the inlay to ultimately be. Issue was, the plastic was just too floppy and wobbly to actually be useful as a jig. So I used the jig I had made out of plastic in order to cut a new jig out of plywood, and then I used the plywood in order to cut the actual table. Magnificent muffins. Now that the table is actually cut, I can begin to cut the strips of wood in order to put them into the actual groove that we've made. And as mentioned earlier, the wood that has been chosen for the inlays is purple heart and paddock. If you ever need to bend some relatively thin strips of wood, all you've got to do is build yourself an entire double-headed shower and then just put the wood in the shower and then have a shower and bend the wood while you're in there. And there you go. Easy. Alright. We have happy strips of joy. Look how joyful they are. They're wonderful. With the inlay strips now softened up, I could take some glue and I could squish them all together in the vice clamps. Once the glue had set, I released the clamps and examined the piece, and it was perfectly acceptable. So off camera, I made the corresponding inlay, and then it was simply a matter of getting them both into the actual table. As you can see here, I'm beginning with the inlay, which is 2 parts paddock and 1 part purple heart, and shockingly, I'm gluing it and then clamping it. I know, that's unheard of, never been done before. Next, I needed to sand down everything, make sure it's all nice and smooth. And while I was in the middle of doing that, my grandma kind of came downstairs and had a hand-knitted blanket that she wanted to give me. So that was nice. Thanks, Grandma.
Let's try not to startle you. You rang and knocked. Grandma has something to give you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry to disturb you.
If you like it,
Oh,
I just finished it.
oh, I
today.
like it.
It has all the colors in there,
Oh, good.
I think.
Here's the blanket, by the way. It's very nice. Alright, anyway, back to sanding. I needed to do more of it, and so I did. And then I needed to put the next inlay in, so I also did that. In a wonderful act of loving kindness and joy, I cut the table in half, which I'm sure it definitely appreciated having done to it. Just as before, I glued it all up and then squished it all together with the clamps, but in this case there was nearly a terrible mistake. Fortunately, it turned out being okay, but it could have been pretty bad, and I would have had to actually take apart the entire table again. You can see the issue right here in the footage, actually. It's right at the intersection point. There is a blob of glue, which blocks my view of exactly how the strips should align so that it looks like one continuous piece. Because I was waiting for the glue to harden so that it would be easier to remove, I didn't realize there was a slight misalignment between the strips. Fortunately, though, I told my brother and his fiance about the issue, and he looked at it and he was fine with it. He didn't think it was even noticeable. So that's all good. So on to the next step, which is to inlay the flowers. So in order to do that, I first marked out where I need my jig to actually be positioned, and then I began by carving out the first middle section of the flower. And then I carried on to do the smaller petals first, did a whole little circle of that, and then carried on to the larger petals and did a good circle of that, and then I simply repeated that whole process. I had all the happy little flowers carved into the table now. All I had to do next was cut out the inserts, which would be going into the flowers and would be made of various different materials, which is sapele and purple heart. Once I had applied some wood glue, I could put the inserts into the carving and basically begin to sand the entire thing down for the final finish. With the sanding mostly done, I cut the table to its final dimensions. I gave the edge of the table a profile using an Ogi router bit. If you've enjoyed this video so far, it would be rather splendid if you would give it a like and share it. On to the epoxy work now. I began by doing the bottom of the table as kind of an experiment to make sure the epoxy works correctly. Then I flipped it over and did the first pour and forgot to turn on the camera for that, but it's okay because that first pour ended up not going as well as it should have, and I needed to do a second pour to correct the issues of the first one, which is what you're seeing here. Now, you may be noticing that there is a distinct lack of legs on this table, and legs are generally considered to be rather important, both on people and on tables. The reason for that is because I'm doing one half of the table, which is obviously the woodworking half, whereas my stepbrother is going to eventually do the base of the table out of metalwork. So it's kind of both brothers coming together to give this wedding gift to the happy couple. With my half of the table done, I will now show off the table with an appropriate selection of music.
La donna immobile, qual piuma al vento, muta d'argento, e di pensiero, sempre un amabile, leggiadro viso, il pianto in riso, e menzognero, la donna immobile, qual piuma al vento, muta d'argento, pensier pensier